Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to kick off a new theme as we do on Mondays, this one being beautiful music. Now, I don't think I necessarily need to describe what beautiful music is, but I am going to say that this week we are mostly going to listen to stuff that would have positive descriptions, such as gorgeous or pretty or some other positive term. You can certainly find beautifully gritty or filthy music, but that's not what we're going to be looking at today or this week. We're primarily going to be exploring music that has, consonant harmony and synergy between the instrumental parts, and generally, like I said, would be described with positive terms. We're going to kick that off with some talk, which has me a little curious if my idea of beautiful is different than other people's idea of beautiful. Talk certainly has some tracks that I've heard that I would definitely call beautiful, but they're also, they're part of the post movement. Post-punk, was it that they were doing? Granted, well, let's see, Spirit of Eden, this is the album that came off of 1988. Okay, I've seen this album art too, so let's just get into it. Let's see if this was their more normal era or a bit more esoteric era. Let's dive in. I will say as a quick note while there we go. This is a highly dynamic song. We hit the peak only for half a minute or so. A lot of this is going to be on the quieter side, so I'm going to try to be quiet myself. If you want, you can turn up the audio. I will not be blasting over the sound of the volume with my comments.
Just can't bring myself to see it starting. Tell me how I feel about prejudice for my day. Is it worth so much when you taste it? Enough there ain't enough in a time to sell yourself, a time for passing. Spirit. Hello.
All right, I'm gonna pump my volume back up. 5, 4, 3. All right, so I feel like every week there's at least one song that I'm like, okay, so, subjectively I can see where it can be applied, but I would never really associate this track with the theme. And, we have more objective themes, right? If we have a theme that's like music in 5/4 or something like there isn't a lot of wiggle room in that. But when we have more subjective themes like beautiful music, what is beautiful is different from person to person. This always happens, but usually not so early in the week. My patrons vote on this stuff. If you want to pick what we listen to in the future, head on over to my Patreon. Links are in the description. You can make sure that we listen to stuff that you think applies for each theme. This ended up being the most popular song on the poll, though. And I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Is it beautiful? In places, at times. Not consistent, though. And honestly, I was put on edge more often than I think I really expected to for Beautiful Music Week. I'm just gonna say this, coming into this week, this was not the kind of stuff I expected to be listening to, and I kind of hope that moving forward we have something else. Not that this is bad music, it's just my mind was not here for it. Let's. Okay, closer to the end of the track, 4.5 minutes in, the vocalist comes in and sings something about spirits or something, which, okay. We'll get to the lyrics soon, I suppose. Is this a supernatural track? I believe in you, spirits, maybe so. But we do have these, I don't know, it sounds choir-esque, but it doesn't sound like real voices. So I'm going to assume it's some sort of keyboard or synth patch that has choir, like a MIDI choir, possibly. There is something calming and beautiful about this. There's a serenity. So majority of the chord progression here and the sound itself. And I think those with the subtle whispers from the vocals come off as beautiful. I really like that moment. And I think it stands out against the rest of the song. Now, this is present elsewhere too, but I feel like there's something different in those moments. Maybe a bass guitar, something, maybe some sort of guitar sounds that happens to be playing at those moments that just kind of it removes some of my attention from this core harmony, from the chord progression itself. But there at the end, it allowed me to focus entirely on it, and I think that generally it works in that section. As far as viewing this from the perspective of, beauty, like I said, that moment's very serene to me. It's very calming listening to the chord progression, listening to the light vocal within it. There's something almost spiritual in that moment. But unfortunately, that's kind of it for me. And it's the end of the song, the climax. From there, we just sort of fade out in the last minute or so. And I think that's kind of cool, possibly. A song that builds up from more tense ideas into this moment of serenity is very cool. Maybe that still applies to the theme. I was just expecting more consistency of the beauty rather than the end results of the song. And this is interesting too because the song is a journey. We go through several, well, not several, it's only like 3 sections in here, but we go through a few different types of tension or stress. The song comes in very subtly, and we're actually quite a bit quiet, quite a few dBs under max for a while. It takes I don't know, minute and a half, maybe even two before we hit the first volume peak on the song. All of this is subtle buildup. We have volume swelling in, but there's also extra layers coming in too that are helping build this out a little bit. The vocals are not the main thing going on here. The vocals are consistently the quietest instrument in any of these sections. Now we do have this chord progression at the beginning of the song, but I don't think it was on the choir. Y'all can let me know. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Because what I do remember exceptionally clear are these little guitar chirps that are just a hair bit behind the beat. So they're not in time with anything. They're quite a bit louder than everything else as well. And I can't quite catch their harmonic resonance either. I don't think they're in tune with everything, but it definitely didn't sound out of tune either. Not totally dissonant. I just couldn't feel the consonants either. Maybe some sort of harmonic neutrality. It appeared, I don't know. We heard it 3 times or so. I don't even know what it was, honestly. It was certainly a short sound across several strings, a slow strum. Not palm muted though. Maybe it was strumming on, over the nut, at the part of the strings between the neck and the tuning knobs. Possibly. I honestly don't know. It came by so infrequently that I couldn't anticipate when it came. When it happened, I was like, oh, there it is again. What is that? It seems just a little out of place, rhythmically, harmonically, production wise, and yet it keeps popping up. But this isn't the only thing about this section that sort of pulls me away from some of the beauty that the song is trying to achieve. There's also just a general edge to everything. I think, generally speaking, harmonically just harmonically, it's not much of a melody going on here. Harmonically speaking, this is calming. There's a soothing element to it, but it feels tense. Just enough. Just a little bit of a spice of anxiety tossed in there. The song is on edge. It's putting up a really good front, but you could see the mask starting to crack. That the song wants to pretend everything's okay, but there's something bubbling underneath. And certainly, there is. Around the halfway point of this song, it just starts to meander. I took a note that said directionless and destinationless midsection. The song just kind of is for a while. The vocals, they leave, and we're just left with a song that barely even seems to want to keep its chord progression going, much less any sense of melodic movement. We get a few sounds, I don't know. They come from an instrument, but it's not like we're playing a melody. We're just kind of creating tones and textures here. The chord progression itself starts to break down a little bit. That anxiety begins to shine through a little bit stronger. I don't know. I think I made a few faces here. I was quite confused by it. Primarily, here's the thing too, right? It's about context. And sometimes these themes help me understand what a song might be trying to do, and sometimes they distract me from it too. I don't know that I would have been as flummoxed on this one if I hadn't been introduced it in the leading song for Beautiful Music Week. At this moment, all I could think of was people elected for this song because they thought it was beautiful? And I would not have had that thought if it were in a post-punk week. I would have just accepted, oh, this is post-punk music. Yep, we've had Talk before. And, what is it doing? What is it trying to say? Rather than, I'm trying to put it into a box, is what's happening here. So, I don't know. I think I understand what this track is trying to do. It's trying to create some sort of beauty out of tension, some sort of false representation. Like I mentioned, throughout most of this track, there's something bubbling underneath, and then here we finally get it. The pretense of the song has been removed, and we just have this awkward meandering, full of tension here. We rise back out of it, though, and return back to the serene. We end the track, as I mentioned earlier, with that calming, choir-esque sound. The vocals, though, I haven't really talked about this much other than just saying they're quiet, but they aren't just quiet. It's not just a volume thing. It's also a projection thing. It's a air support thing. It doesn't feel confident. It feels lacking in. And I wonder if this isn't supposed to be a reflection of the music, or maybe the music is supposed to be a reflection of this person, this character, this narrator. They're trying to put on a show that they are A-okay, but they're not. They have anxiety, they have tension bubbling under the surface, they lack confidence to really show this through, and like I said, the cracks are beginning to form on the mask. The anxiety is becoming more prevalent. It's impossible to hide that part of themselves. I have no idea how to tie this into the title, I Believe in You, or a possible supernatural element, as the only word I really picked up a lot in this is spirit. Spirit, I believe in you? I don't know, man. This is a Talk song right here. Like I said at the beginning, are we going to get something that's a bit more oh, you know what? I think I'm getting Talk mixed up with Talking Heads. Or maybe not necessarily getting them mixed up, but I think I'm remembering some Talking Heads tracks as Talk. I wonder if I've ever listened to a Talk track that is mostly consonant and beautiful, because there's always some sort of esoteric part of their music, something a bit more experimental, like the midpoint in this. Yeah, I think that's what I might have to go back and check then. But I think I am getting kind of combining their two libraries together in my mind. So I should have been expecting something a little, I don't want to say the word off-putting, but definitely something that I think works more artistically for me than casually. Talk, I think, continues to be a band that I think I appreciate more on that artistic level. I think they do a great job at capturing sounds and vibes and ideas, but I don't think I've heard much that I really want to come back to. Let me check out some lyrics for this one, and then we'll wrap this up. All right, so we have a song. The narrator is trying to convince people, someone in particular. It's kind of on both sides of this. Anyways, he's trying to say that people need to stop using heroin, or maybe a specific person needs to stop using heroin. There's not a lot of lyrics to this one. Verse 1 states, "Hear it in my spirit." I really like that. He says, "I've seen heroin for myself on the street, so young, laying wasted. Enough. Ain't it enough with this crippled world? I can't bring myself to see it starting. So they have seen the destructions of heroin firsthand, and they don't understand it. They see the damage it does, and they can't believe people still willingly use it. He says that it's crippled our world. Hasn't it done enough damage? Verse 2 says, "Tell me how I fear it. I buy prejudice for my health. Is it worth so much when you taste it? Enough. There ain't enough hidden hurt. A time to sell yourself, a time for passing." So once again, he basically says, I hate this stuff. And that is fine. I will have this prejudice in me because it keeps me healthy. It keeps me safe from it. I'm so afraid of this drug that I will never use it. But there is this inquisitive element that says, is it worth so much when you taste it? And I think this is a really important question. If you've never done anything addictive, if you've never been addicted to anything, whether it's drugs or gambling or anything that just requires a little bit of willpower that you just can't overcome, it's not so much that it is worth it in a sense. It says, is it worth so much when you taste it? Is the destruction that you know will come a price that's worth paying to experience this now? And I think that's a question that you can only ask if you've never been addicted to something. And I really appreciate that perspective being put in here because it almost feels judgmental. But I'm taking it as naive, like an honest attempt to understand how this drug is so powerful. And he says there's not enough hidden hurt in the world. There's a time to sell yourself and a time for passing. I don't quite understand these two lines, but I do understand the enough part. The narrator seems to be tired of all of the pain and damage that this drug has caused. They say it's time for it to end. We do have the chorus kicking in here, it comes before the instrumental bridge section and then returns after it as well. It just says, "Spirit, I believe in you. How long I believe in you." So not about spirits, but the "I believe in you," I believe is probably an acknowledgement that they believe this other person they're talking to can overcome their addiction. But the spirit and how long, well, how long could be a question of, how long are you going to do this? How long until you decide enough is enough and you're going to try to quit? But the spirit might just be, I don't know. We do have that line at the beginning, "Hear it in my spirit." Talking about how powerful this fear and hate is for this drug. Maybe that's what he's saying here too. I believe in your spirit's ability to overcome this, but how long will it take? So this is interesting because musically I don't see a lot that lines up here. There's definitely an anxiety or tension in these lyrics. There's a hatred even that does bubble up in the music. There's also the chorus. How long will this go on? The meandering, the directionlessness of the music could be a representation of a drug user. Maybe trying to get better, maybe trying to get clean, but ultimately not. Hence, the chorus needs to come back in. I believe in you. Bringing that back. But musically, this doesn't really seem too beautiful, other than the "I believe in you" part. But this is a painful song lyrically. I find that to be an interesting thematic emotion to pair with the music of this track. I had a totally different read on it, too. Musically, this tells a different story to me than the lyrics do. But these are just my thoughts. On Talk Talks, I believe in you. What are your thoughts? Did anything stand out to you? Is there anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own interpretation on this. Please let me know. Put all of that and any other thoughts you have down into the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, how to sign up for Patreon, the schedule for the channel, all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and check that out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.